The gunshot came before the scream. Elena dropped the silver tray. Porcelain shattered across the marble floors. The mansion erupted into chaos. 3 masked men had stormed through the French doors, weapons raised, their boots crushing the broken plates beneath them. The guards reacted instantly, but the attackers had planned the assault too well. One guard fell near the staircase. Another disappeared behind a column as bullets tore through the walls. Elena stood frozen in the center of the dining hall. Then one of the gunmen saw her. His weapon lifted. Time seemed to stop. Before he could fire, a black-suited figure crossed the room. Dante Moretti, the most feared Mafia boss in the city. He struck Elena hard enough to knock her behind a marble pillar just as a bullet ripped through the air. The impact echoed through the mansion. Elena pressed herself against the cold stone, unable to breathe. Dante stood between her and the gunman. His face was expressionless. His eyes were not. They were filled with something Elena had never seen in the 11 months she had worked inside his mansion. Fear. Not fear for himself. Fear for her. Dante drew his pistol. The next second became a blur of gunfire. One attacker fell. Another tried to escape through the corridor. Dante's men surrounded him. The third fired wildly before Dante's bullet stopped him. Silence returned almost as quickly as the violence had begun. Smoke drifted through the dining hall. Elena slowly raised her head. Dante was still standing in front of her. Blood was running down his hand. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. He looked at her again, scanning her face, neck, shoulders, as though searching for even the smallest wound. "I asked if you're hurt." "No." Her voice barely existed. Dante exhaled. For a man known for ordering executions without blinking, the relief on his face was almost frightening. Then his expression hardened. "Everyone leaves this room." His men obeyed immediately. Within seconds, only Dante and Elena remained surrounded by broken glass and bullet holes. Elena looked at the blood on his hand. "You're injured." "It's nothing." "You protected me." His eyes met hers. "I protect what belongs to me." The words made her heart stop. She looked away. "I'm only your maid." Dante stepped closer. "You're not only anything." Elena's fingers tightened around the edge of her uniform. For months, she had worked hard to remain invisible. She prepared his meals without speaking. She entered rooms only when called. She kept her eyes lowered whenever Dante walked past. That was how she had survived inside his world. Because everyone knew the rules. Dante Moretti didn't tolerate disobedience. He didn't forgive betrayal. And he certainly didn't fall in love. Yet lately, something had changed. He remembered how she took her coffee. He noticed when she skipped meals. He had once sent a doctor to treat her injured hand without telling her who had paid the bill. And when another man from the household had made Elena uncomfortable, that man had mysteriously disappeared from the estate the following morning. Dante never explained. Elena never asked. She knew better. But tonight, after watching him put himself between her and a bullet, pretending not to care had become impossible. She took one step backward. Dante followed. Her pulse quickened. "Mr. Moretti." He stopped. She swallowed. "Don't look at me like that." His eyes narrowed. "Like what?" "Like..." She struggled to find the words. "Like I'm someone you can't afford to lose." Dante said nothing. The silence was worse than an answer. Elena lowered her gaze. "You shouldn't." "Why?" "Because people like you don't get attached to people like me." Something flickered across his face. Pain. Then anger. Not at her. At himself. "You don't know what kind of man I am." "I know enough." "No." His voice became quieter. "You know what everyone else thinks I am." Elena looked up. For one dangerous moment, they stood only inches apart. The Mafia boss who controlled half the city's underground empire was staring at a maid as if she were the only person left in the world. Then a phone rang. Dante answered. His expression changed instantly. "What?" He listened. The color drained from his face. Elena had never seen Dante Moretti look frightened. Not even when surrounded by armed men. Not even when blood covered his clothes. But now he looked as though someone had reached inside his chest and ripped something apart. He ended the call. "What's wrong?" He didn't answer. "Dante." His eyes moved toward her. "The attack wasn't meant to kill me." Elena's stomach dropped. "Then who?" Dante's voice was barely above a whisper. You. Elena froze. Before she could respond, another phone vibrated. This time, it was hers. Her hands trembled as she pulled it from her pocket. Unknown number. One message. We know why you entered the Moretti mansion. Her blood turned cold. She deleted the message immediately, but Dante had already seen it. His expression became unreadable. Who sent that? No one. Elena. She stepped back. I don't know. It was the first lie she had ever told him, and Dante knew it. He took her phone from her hand. She tried to stop him, but he was faster. He read the message. Then he looked at her. The tenderness in his eyes was gone. In its place was a cold stare that had made powerful men beg for mercy. How long have you been lying to me? Elena couldn't answer, because the truth was more dangerous than the gunman who had just invaded the mansion. She hadn't become Dante Moretti's maid by accident. She had entered his home for a reason that involved his greatest enemy, a reason that could destroy everything between them. And the worst part? Dante had already begun to fall in love with her. But if he discovered why she had really come into his mansion, would he still protect her? Or would the woman he had just risked his life to save become the next person on his death list? Dante stared at Elena's phone as though it were evidence from a murder scene. The message remained on the screen. We know why you entered the Moretti mansion. He slowly lifted his eyes. Who sent it? Elena said nothing. Dante stepped closer. I'll ask once. She could hear the controlled anger beneath his voice. Who sent it? I don't know. His jaw tightened. That's your second lie. Elena's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to tell him everything. She wanted to explain that she had never intended to deceive him, but the truth could get her brother killed. And if Dante discovered that her brother was connected to the man who had been trying to destroy his empire, there would be no forgiveness. Dante handed the phone to one of his men. Trace it. The man immediately left. Elena watched him disappear. Then Dante turned back toward her. You have 10 minutes. For what? To tell me the truth. She shook her head. I can't. You can. No. His voice became colder. Then I'll find out without you. He walked away. Elena's heart sank, because she knew Dante. Once he started searching, nothing remained hidden. Not names, not bank accounts, not dead bodies, not secrets, especially not hers. By sunrise, Dante's entire organization was on alert. 2 warehouses were attacked. A shipment disappeared from the docks. One of his trusted drivers was found dead inside his car. The same symbol had been carved into the vehicle at every crime scene. A black serpent. Dante knew exactly who had returned. Victor Salvatore, his oldest enemy. 5 years earlier, Dante had believed Victor was dead. Apparently, he had been wrong. And now Victor wasn't simply attacking Dante's businesses. He was attacking everything Dante cared about. The message was unmistakable. I can reach you anywhere. Dante called his men into the underground war room. Maps covered the walls. Phones rang continuously. Names and locations appeared on screens. Dante stood at the center, perfectly calm. Close the harbor. Already done. Freeze every account connected to Salvatore. Done. Find his people. A lieutenant hesitated. We found one. Dante looked up. Where? The hospital. The room went silent. Dante's expression changed. Who? The lieutenant swallowed. Elena's brother. Elena was standing outside the door. She heard every word. Her knees nearly gave out. Dante turned toward her. Neither spoke. Then Elena whispered, My brother is alive. Dante stared at her. You knew? She nodded. How long? Months. The room became unbearably quiet. Dante dismissed everyone. When the door closed, he faced her. Why didn't you tell me? Because he was being hunted. By Victor? Yes. Then why did you come here? Elena's tears finally fell. Because Victor ordered me to. Dante went still. She forced herself to continue. My brother owed him money. Victor threatened to kill him unless I entered your mansion and found your financial records. Dante's face became expressionless. And did you? No. Why? Because I couldn't. His eyes narrowed. Couldn't. Elena stepped closer. Because I stopped seeing you as the monster everyone described. Dante looked away. She continued through her tears. I came here planning to betray you. Silence. But then I saw who you really were. Dante's voice was almost inaudible. Don't. I saw you sitting beside your dying guard for 6 hours. Stop. I saw you secretly paying your employees' medical bills. Elena. And I saw how lonely you were. Dante slammed his fist against the table. Stop. She flinched. His breathing became uneven. For the first time, the control Mafia boss looked broken. You should have left. I tried. When? The night I realized I loved you. Dante stared at her. And you stayed. Yes. Knowing what would happen if I discovered the truth. Yes. He walked toward her. His eyes were wet, but his voice remained cold. You made me trust you. I know. You made me protect you. I know. You made me love you. Elena's lips trembled. I never meant to. Dante stopped inches away. That doesn't make it hurt less. Suddenly, the lights went out. A gunshot exploded somewhere downstairs. Dante immediately pulled Elena behind him. His guard shouted through the mansion. Another shot, then another. The window shattered. Victor's men had breached the estate. Dante grabbed Elena's hand. Stay with me. They ran through the corridor as bullets tore into the walls. Dante's guards returned fire. The mansion became a battlefield. Elena saw one of the attackers moving toward the private wing. My brother. Dante stopped. What? He's at the hospital. Another explosion shook the building. Elena realized Victor had lied. Her brother wasn't the target. Dante was. And Victor had used Elena's confession to distract him. A guard rushed toward them. Boss, the underground vault has been breached. Dante's face hardened. His financial records. Everything Victor had wanted. Elena suddenly understood. This was never about my brother. Dante looked at her. It was about your records. And I led him straight to them. Dante's eyes met hers. For a second, anger threatened to consume him. Then he grabbed his weapon. Stay here. No, Elena. You don't understand. She pointed toward the security monitor. Victor knows the mansion's layout. Dante stayed at the screen. A camera showed one of the attackers walking directly toward the vault. Elena whispered, He got the information from me. Dante's expression hardened. How? I told Victor about the house. You told him everything. Not everything. She hesitated. There was one thing I never told him. What? That the vault has a second entrance. Dante understood immediately. He grabbed her hand. Show me. They raced downstairs. Behind them, gunfire grew louder. Dante's men fought desperately to hold the mansion. But Victor had planned the attack perfectly. At the vault entrance, Dante stopped. The steel door was open. Inside, his files were scattered. His encrypted drives were gone. And on the wall was a message written in red. Thank you, Elena. Dante stared at it. Elena covered her mouth. I didn't. I know. She looked at him. You believe me. Dante turned. No. The word shattered her. He stepped closer. I believe you didn't betray me willingly. A gunshot cracked from behind. Dante pushed Elena down. The bullet struck his shoulder. He fell against the wall. Dante! Elena screamed. 3 gunmen entered the vault. Dante forced himself upright and fired. One fell. Another disappeared behind a pillar. The third grabbed Elena. She fought desperately. Dante fired again. The attacker dropped. Elena rushed toward him. Blood soaked Dante's shirt. You're hurt. I've been worse. You could have died. So could you. He grabbed her face. His voice broke. Don't make me choose between loving you and surviving. Elena cried. I don't want either. Dante stared at her. Then the mansion shook from another explosion. A voice came through the security speakers. Victor, you've got 10 minutes. Dante. Dante looked up. Victor continued. Bring Elena to the harbor. A pause. Come alone. Then the speaker went silent. Elena understood immediately. Victor wasn't asking for her. He was demanding her. And Dante knew what that meant. If he surrendered Elena, Victor might release the people he had captured. If he refused, innocent lives would die. Dante picked up his weapon. Elena grabbed his arm. You can't go alone. I have to. No. He looked into her eyes. You're the reason this happened. She froze. Then his expression softened. And you're also the reason I'm going to end it. Dante walked toward the exit. Elena followed, because she finally understood something. Victor hadn't just declared war on Dante Moretti. He had declared war on the one thing Dante had spent his entire life trying to avoid: love. And tonight, the Mafia boss was going to burn his entire empire to protect the woman who had once entered his home intending to destroy him. Dante drove toward the harbor with only one car behind him. No convoy, no army, no visible backup. Victor had demanded that he come alone, and Dante wanted him to believe he had won. Elena sat beside him, staring through the windshield of the dark road ahead. You should leave me here, she whispered. Dante didn't look at her. No. If Victor gets me, he'll stop. He won't. You don't know that. I know men like Victor. Dante tightened his grip on the steering wheel. They don't want what they ask for. They want to watch you surrender it. Elena looked at him. And what will you surrender? Dante finally turned. Nothing. The harbor appeared ahead. Rows of abandoned containers stood beneath the pale moonlight. At the center was Victor. Elena's brother was tied to a chair beside him. Dante's sister was on the opposite side. 2 lives, 2 hostages, 1 final game. Victor smiled. You came. Dante stepped out of the car. Elena followed. Victor immediately raised his weapon. I said alone. Dante looked at Elena. She is the reason you brought me here. Victor laughed. No, she's the reason you lost. He snapped his fingers. A dozen armed men emerged from behind the containers. Dante's expression didn't change. Victor smiled wider. You really thought I'd let you walk away? Then the harbor lights suddenly switched on. Victor's smile disappeared. Dante's hidden men surrounded the entire dock. They had been waiting underwater, inside abandoned warehouses, and behind the shipping containers. Dante had never intended to come alone. He had simply intended Victor to believe it. Gunfire exploded. The harbor became chaos. Dante moved toward Victor while his men attacked from every direction. Victor ran. Dante followed. They disappeared between the containers. Elena rushed toward her brother. She freed him, then ran to Dante's sister. A gunman appeared behind her. Before he could fire, Elena struck his wrist with a metal bar. The weapon fell. She grabbed it and pointed it at him. For the first time, she wasn't a frightened maid hiding behind Dante. She was fighting for herself. The man fled. Elena looked toward the containers. A single gunshot echoed. Then silence. She ran. She found Dante standing over Victor. Victor was wounded but alive. You think this ends with killing me? Victor coughed. Dante lowered his weapon. No. Victor looked confused. Dante threw a folder onto the ground. Inside were bank records, names, transactions, and evidence connecting Victor to politicians, corrupt officials, kidnappings, and murders. I don't want you dead. Victor stared at him. I want you alive long enough to watch everything you built disappear. For the first time, fear appeared in Victor's eyes. Police sirens sounded in the distance. Victor looked toward Dante. You called them. I gave them enough evidence to bury you. Victor laughed bitterly. You become soft. Dante glanced at Elena. No. His voice was calm. I finally learned the difference between revenge and justice. Victor was arrested before sunrise. His organization collapsed within weeks. The stolen money was recovered. Dante's businesses were investigated, and several illegal operations were dismantled. For the first time in years, the city began hearing a different story about Dante Moretti. Not a king, not a monster, a man trying to leave the empire that had nearly destroyed everyone he loved. But Elena's transformation was even greater. She no longer wore the maid's uniform. She no longer lowered her eyes when powerful men entered the room. She returned to the mansion because she wanted to, not because she needed to. Dante never asked her to forget what he had done. Instead, he gave her something she had never received from anyone. A choice. You can leave whenever you want, he told her. Elena smiled. I know. And if you stay? She stepped closer. Then I stay because I choose you. Months passed. The mansion changed. The guards were fewer. The rooms were brighter. The fear that had once filled the corridors slowly disappeared. One evening, Elena stood beside Dante on the balcony. You know, she said, you used to scare me. I know. You still do sometimes. Dante smiled. That seems fair. She looked at him. But you don't anymore. He turned toward her. Why? Elena reached for his hand. Because now I know the man behind the monster. Dante looked at the intertwined fingers. He had spent his entire life believing power meant never needing anyone. Now he understood how wrong he had been. Power had built his empire. But love had forced him to become human. Elena leaned against his shoulder. Do you ever regret letting me into your life? Dante looked at her. Never. Even though she had entered his mansion intending to betray him, even though her secrets had nearly destroyed everything, even though loving her had made him vulnerable, he would choose her again, every time, because a woman who once whispered, "Don't look at me like that," had become the only person who could look directly into the eyes of the most feared man in the city and see something nobody else had ever noticed. Not a mafia boss, not a criminal king, not a monster, just a man who finally found a reason to put down his gun. And perhaps that was the greatest revenge of all. She didn't destroy the mafia boss. She gave him a life worth surviving for.